Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and about 6 years ago I made a video called How to Panelline Gundams the Lazy Arse Way, which was, as the title suggested, the lazy arse way of getting your gunpla panellined as quick as possible. Now, I build a lot of gunpla and I've got a really tight schedule for reviews on the channel here, so when I'm panellining my kits it has to be super fast, but at the same time I do want it to be as good as possible because usually when I prep a kit for a review, that is all the time I will ever have to give to that particular gunpla. So that does mean over the years I have been trying to refine my panellining to be both a nice mix of good and very quick, and at the same time can be done in a fairly lazy arse way. Now, if you've seen that video I made 6 years ago, I used the GSI Kreos Gundam marker panelliners, the felt tip ones you just scroll on into the panel lines and then rub it away. You can use your finger, your thumb, or an eraser to clean them up, and it is very nice. However, I will mention there are some down points to those particular markers I've realized since then. Issue the first. These aren't necessarily permanent. They can actually be rubbed away very easily if you don't do any kind of top coat. If you do a top coat, the number 2 issue is top coat can actually obscure or blur this particular kind of pen. And finally, the last one is the gray marker that tends to fade. And even worse, the brown marker bleeds. And I mean, it can give some really nasty effects if you like some sharp panellining on your kits. Something like this doesn't look great. Now, I know what everyone says straight away, and they always say this, and that is Tamiya panel line accent. Comes in a pot, goes on easy, rubs off easy. Apparently, I've never tried it. I always mean to, but at the same time, I know I'll always default to a marker because I want something I can sit on the couch while watching something and panel line with. Not something I can tip, spill, or get all over the place, because I 100% definitely will. In a pen, there's no mess. So that is why I have since then upgraded to these. So these are once again GSI Kreos Gundam markers, but these are the extra thin type. You can get these in a set just like this one right here, which is designed for using with the standard Gundam color scheme. So you've got yourself a panel liner in gray for using on the Gundam white. You've got a panel liner in blue for using on the Gundam blue. You've got a panel liner in green for using on, I'm going to assume, on any Zaku parts you might have. And then you've got orange for on yellows and brown for on reds. On top of that, we've got this eraser pen as well, this Keishi pen. This is basically like a little tube of solvent, and this is for cleaning up any mess. Now, if you don't want the whole array of colors, you can just go with the classic black. These are sold separately, and I will mention I bought a whole bunch of these because I thought I'd go through them really fast. And that's the one thing about these markers. They last forever. I've been using this one solidly for about 2 years now, and it's going nowhere. The same goes for the other felt tip style ones as well. I've had these since I left Japan, and I left Japan pretty much 5 years ago. The only issue I find with these over time is the fact that you might fray the tip a bit, but besides that, these have lasted me 5 years, over thousands and thousands of kits. Also, if you are buying separately and you just want to clean these up without actually shelling out for the Keishi pen, because the eraser pen also runs out quicker than the rest, we'll just get a big old jug of isopropyl alcohol or rubbing alcohol, and this will last you forever. And it's even more effective than the pen. But yeah, just to show how to do this really quick and really effectively, I'm going to do this on the perfect grade Strike Gundam, and maybe I'll grab another couple off the shelf that need a little bit of a topping up. Also, I will mention before anything else, and keep this in mind, do not use these pens on ABS plastic. It says it on the runner if they're ABS or not quite clearly. Do not, because these will split, crack, and damage ABS plastic. Stick to the standard pens for that. Also, because there's a bunch of mucky chemicals involved, especially the markers themselves aren't great, and the alcohol, I recommend wearing some gloves so you don't get that crap all over yourself. This video was once again brought to you by Manscaped.com, the global leader in men's grooming, tools, and hygiene solutions. Manscaped offers everything you would ever need for all of your manly grooming needs as part of their Performance Package Bundle. All the way from their Lawnmower 4.0 waterproof body hair trimmer with LED light, all the way to the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant. Of course, for perfect hairless balls! But now Manscaped has just released a new collection of anti-chafing high-performance boxer briefs. These are without a single doubt, hands down, the greatest pair of jocks I have ever tried in my life. There's 6 color combinations to choose from. They've got the all black pack, a pack with black and gold waistbands, keep it business with grey and pinstripes, or go for the gold nuggets. But the best aspect is the dual pouch TM design. Now, I thought this was just a joke. This is ridiculously comfortable. I am not messing around. So if you want to try these out, go to manscaped.com today and get 20% off plus free international shipping when you use my promo code MECHA. That's 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you. I will mention I do recommend panel lining as you're actually building as opposed to doing it afterwards, but if you are doing it after, I suggest stripping your Gundam down to its base elements, as in its arms, torso, head, etc. Some kits aren't too happy to be disassembled after being built, so again, best to do it while building. So when it comes to the White Sonic Gundam, the real options, if you're not getting too, well, creative or colorful, are just simple old black, which will give you some super high contrast, and then we've got some gray, which if you like a more subtle kind of panel separation, this works very well. Now, I will mention the gray flows a little bit better than the black, so it is easier to use and clean up. The black causes more impact, and personally, I usually go for a combination of the two, and I'll mention how. So for the likes of this right here, which I'd personally refer to as a true panel line, as in this is meant to be a big opening plate on the back of the Gundam's forearm, that I always use black for the high contrast separation, like you're actually able to see through to the inner mechanisms. So I like to give these a little bit of a couple of pumps first just to make sure they're actually flowing. And in order to actually use these, you actually just touch the tip of the pen against the panel line. Now for these actual pin stripe style panel lines, all you need to do is touch it and it will flow itself. You just touch it against the surface like this, it will flow, touch it again a little further down until it is all filled in. Don't worry about the little circular, and don't worry about those little circular blobs we've got. Those we will clean up later. Now, just for the sake of a direct comparison, this isn't actually for the panel lining, but just for the comparison, I'm going to show you the gray on the other side, because this does flow a lot cleaner and a lot easier than the black, and the effect of the color is almost as strong. Unlike the felt tip pens where they're very, very different, the black is very strong, holds on longer, the gray is a little bit weak and can kind of fade over time, these are almost as impactful as each other. You just got a nicer flow with the gray. So we also have these kind of large slot segments as well, which aren't actually a panel line. Now, you can do what you want with these, but what I tend to do is fill them all in entirely with the color of choice. Once again, I'm doing the black on the right, the gray on the left, just to show the different effects of them. Now, if you take a fresh arm like the one I'm using right here, I find actually starting with these segments and actually putting the panel line ink into them, it actually causes a kind of well effect. You've got a well in these, and that will flow then into the panel lines, and it'll panel line them all very, very cleanly and quickly. However, I will mention once again, the chemicals in these pens is quite rough. So if you put in too much, it means it takes longer to dry, which means the actual chemicals are in contact with the plastic longer, and this can even crack standard polystyrene. So be careful. Less is more with these pens. So when it comes to filling in these pinstripe panel lines, simple physics is your friend. So there's two things really going on right here. The main action is capillary action, which means liquids tend to flow through narrow gaps, and that's what you want. You put your little pool in and let it flow. You've also got gravity on your side as well, so hold it upright and the ink will tend to flow towards the ground. So simple. Now there is another factor at play, and that is the actual Gundam itself. When it comes to some older gunpla, I find that a lot of the panel lines are a little bit on the shallow side, so it doesn't, well, capillary action so well, it doesn't run through so well. Newer kits tend to have deeper panel lines and usually finer, nicer panel lines that are molded extremely perfectly, and the flow is fantastic. Older kits aren't as sharp when it comes to their molding, so this mightn't flow so well like what we're seeing right here on the Perfect Grade Strike. Now, the Real Grade Zeta Gundam right here is by no means a new kit, but it is an example of a kit with absolutely phenomenal panel lines, and real grades tend to be. Now this is a great example for how this capillary action kind of works. If you just touch the pen against the panel lines, especially where they interconnect, it'll just flow right on through them. Then it's just tap, 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 tap until they're all filled up. And that isn't the laziest aspect about this method at all, actually. The laziest method is when we bust out the alcohol. So what I use to clean these up is a cloth. This is just a microfiber cloth I got with a screen protector as far as I know. Yep, that's it. It just came with the screen protector, and I've been using it for probably well over a year and a half to clean up panel lines. So yeah, get this, dip it in your alcohol. So the way I tend to alcohol up my rag is I get one part very, very soaked, and then it kind of just makes its way through some of the rag itself. Hit the area with the soaked part a little bit, not too much. You don't want it too wet or it'll take away your entire panel line, and then remove the rest of it with the dry part of the rag. The best I find is a happy medium that's near too dry, and that will just take the panel lines off without ever pulling it out of the panel line. Just rub it all over the place. Do it real quick and this will not disturb your panel line, and it's super fast. Just like what you're seeing here on the Zeta, it just takes away the lines, especially on the gray compared to the black. It just takes away so easily, so quickly, and you're left with absolutely perfect panel lines. And these particular markers, these are completely color fast and they last the test of time. A little more so, and a lot more so I should say, than the felt tip style. Now you can do this with absolutely every panel line in your kit if you want to. Now personally, I tend to use the black on the what I feel like are actual gaps between armor panels, and then when it comes to these little points here, which are kind of like divots or a little bit of marks that I don't, in my mind, assume go through to the inner frame on an actual Gundam. I assume this is just a little bit of a detail on the surface of the armor. This I hit with the gray just to kind of accent it a little bit against the actual armor, but I don't want it to be too deep. But that's just me personally. So I use the gray and it fills them nicely. I just fill them up like so, not too much, or this could potentially crack the armor, just enough to get it in there. And just dab, 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 dab all around the kit, quick and easy. And don't worry about being too clean about it, because you're going to get rid of that afterwards. Now give this about 5 to 10 minutes to dry. If you're patient enough, I'm usually not. Grab your alcohol soaked rag again not too soaked, just a little bit, and then just rub it all over the place, and it will take off the excess while leaving your panel line inside of the recessed parts. Just run around, keep it fairly taut on your fingertip, make sure to be wearing gloves, and before you know it, it'll all be gone, cleaned up, and absolutely perfect. This works everywhere. You can use it to highlight some raised parts. It's very, very, very effective. Now sometimes, you might find that you get a little bit of staining like what you're seeing right here, and even if you use your alcohol wipe, while it's taking away the staining, it will take away your panel line. What I do in this situation, I actually grab a white balancer by Gun Primer. This is one of the most versatile tools I have ever used. This is mainly for buffing up surfaces, but it works perfectly for this too. If you grab that segment there, hit it with the gray side and just keep on working, it will eventually rub away the excess by buffing off the surface just a little bit. This will not remove your panel line and make sure it stays pinstripe perfect. And there you go, it takes away any staining and your panel line remains. Again, this is just an optional step and it can be used for making super perfect panel lines without the alcohol getting rid of them. So now finally getting back to what I was mentioning earlier on, and that is the gray versus black. There it is, all dried and all cleaned up. The black is super high contrast, can even be seen from a distance, and in photography tends to look great. Whoops. If you're filming your kits or taking pictures of your kits or want a real impactful shot, the black always works the best. But I do find in person, when you're looking at your kits, the gray does look a little bit nicer, and the best option is a combination of both. Black on the true panel lines, which you feel are between armor segments, and gray on just something you want to accent against the surface, like any raised detailing or any of the small little notches and indentations. And when you actually use these pens and the alcohol rag, you'll be done with the kit in absolutely no time. And that brings me on to the last thing I want to mention, which is this right here. This is the eraser pen which comes with the set. Now, if you use alcohol, why bother with this? Well, there is one particular reason I prefer this to actually using the alcohol, and that is the smell. This does not have a smell like isopropyl alcohol or lighter fluid. Some people like lighter fluid, I wouldn't touch the stuff. But yeah, the isopropyl alcohol, that is a flammable liquid, so you don't want to be leaving that around inside your house. I store mine outside. And at the same time, you're not going to be using that while sitting on the couch while panel lining while watching some anime, because you'll spill it all over yourself and self-immolate by accident. And if there's anyone else around, or just if you're in a kind of small room, the stink of alcohol is quite strong. You'll get dizzy and it's not good for you. Not that the smell of this marker is good for you either. You should always use it in a ventilated area, but it doesn't have a strong smell, it's easy to use, and there isn't really much mess. So I use this pen in exactly the same sort of way. There's multiple ways you can actually use this, but the way I use it is I dab it onto the microfiber cloth and just start cleaning up exactly the same way I would have before. What I used to do is I used to dab a little bit of the pen beside the panel line and then use the microfiber cloth, but I find you're more likely to wipe away your panel line that way. When it comes to some of the colors in here, the blue is very easy to clean up and it goes through the lines very nicely. It's very subtle while inside of the blue, and when you do use the colors on colors, you get a very kind of illustrative or cartoony kind of vibe, which is pretty cool, if that's what you're going for. Now the brown, just like with the brown panel liners, is a lot more messy. So that does mean you do get a lot more wiping around while you're cleaning up, so you'll have to keep on changing through rags or moving around on the different point of the rag you're actually using. And if you do get any of this kind of staining like I've got right here, just dab the marker onto the surface and then just wipe it away. It's super simple and super effective. There is a little bit more effort involved. This is a little bit less, I guess, solventy of a solvent, so you do have to rub a little bit more than you would with the alcohol, but once again, less smell and a lot less mess, and you're less likely to burn your house down. So yeah, I'm gonna take a completely unpanelined Oryx 78-2 version 3.0 right here, and I'm gonna paneline the whole thing up and see how long it takes me, using only the contents of this particular pack here. So I will be using the eraser marker from this, and I will use all of the colors for all of the colors just for the sake of fun, to actually get the full Oryx 78 effect. I guess here we go. So yeah, it turns out my camera battery died while I was actually filming the panel lining of the particular Gundam right here, but in the end it took me 41 minutes, 33 seconds to panel line the entire thing. And that is front and back. I did skimp a little bit around back, but for the most part, this is up to a fairly decent standard. As far as I would go, this is what I would do for a review, or at least for popping up on the shelf. Now, because this was done really quickly just for the sake of making a point, there are some parts that would have been missed here and there. So if you want to clean up this when you're done, like I mentioned, the balancer is great for taking away any kind of marks and sharpening up lines. But if you do miss some segments, all I do is fill them in afterwards with the actual quick panel liner, because I missed one right here, just filled in with the quick panel liner, the felt-tipped style one. Rub it away with your finger, and there you go. You wouldn't even notice the difference between the two, but this one won't age quite as well as the Gundam extra thin style ones. But yeah, there it is. All done really quickly. If you want to get some kits panel lined really quickly, maybe you've had a bunch build up that you've meant to get around to and you want to get them done all in the one day, well, you can do this. Or maybe you are building so many kits you just can't keep up with taking a long time to panel line. Maybe you can do that. Or maybe you just don't have that much time to actually dedicate to the hobby. So this is a quick way. Again, it's not the best way. It's by no means the worst way either, but it is lazy and it is quick. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Gunpla content, and as always, I will see you next time. As always, this video and every video would not be possible without each and every one of you guys who watches my videos. And special thanks to those of you who are supporting me over on Patreon and on the channel members, including Caleb Engelhart, Global Frequency Studios, Go Little Rockstar, Gunpla UK Limited, Joe, Kill Me Inc., Lawrence Seahack, RG59061, and Van Fawn.